Hello, everyone. This is Howard Fox, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series. Belinda Coker is our guest today. Coming to us from Scotland, Belinda is a hiker, writer, educator, and house sitter. She helps women and others, I would imagine, build confidence through practical adventure and responsible travel. And she teaches how to structure, trust, and responsibly create genuine freedom and stability in life. Belinda, it's a pleasure to finally get you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Howard. It's lovely to be here.
Fantastic. Now, you and I have been trying to have this podcast for quite a while. We met through our friends at Podmatch, and so here you are. And first off, when I mentioned Scotland, there was a little bit of a comfort in my heart because I have such fond memories of Scotland. I have a couple friends that are Scottish and they are up there. But first off, why are you in Scotland right now?
Okay, so I'm in Scotland because I decided to leave the corporate world and travel around the world hiking because I took an early retirement. I'm 60 years old, and I thought, well, I only have 20, maybe 25 active years left. That's how many I guessed I had left. So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to make the most of my life. The rest of my life, I'm going to embrace it and do as much as I can. So my children had all left school, and they were in their final years of university, and everyone was in a safe and secure place, or all my young adult children were in a safe and secure place. So I left and started hiking around the world, and when you're in Australia or New Zealand, because I'm obviously not Scottish, you can tell by my accent. I'm
I got
actually
the accent, but that was about it.
yeah. So I'm dual nationality, Australia and New Zealand. So, but when you're all the way down under, it's a long way to go back up to the top. So I made a decision with my partner that we would base ourselves up in the Northern Hemisphere for 10 months of the year. And we base ourselves up here, and then we can move freely and go and go across to Europe because we can do that quite cheaply, and cross to Europe, do a great hike, like for example, the Tour de Mont Blanc, or where are we going next week? We are heading to Greece for 6 weeks of hiking. And so then we decided, right, where would our Northern Hemisphere base be? And we both have Scottish ancestry. We
Okay.
both love Scotland. Scotland's great. It's actually not expensive to live here, and
Really?
it's free for us. It's free medical, and there's prescriptions. Well, prescriptions are free. So
Oh, wow.
you basically turn up the doctor and you say, right, okay, I've got a little shopping list here, and your whole hiking medical kit gets included in
Nice.
and it's quite funny. Yeah, no, but it's a great place to live. It really is. Yeah.
I love it. I lived in the UK for a little while, many years ago, and I recall, in fact, even here in the United States where I live, Australians, New Zealanders, you are the consummate travelers. I mean, you're always traveling somewhere. And so here you were growing up, living
Mm.
Australia, New Zealand. Had you always had the travel bug in you, or was it really just, I'm done with work, I'm taking the early retirement, and we're just going to go and explore?
No, I actually took what I thought was going to be a gap year straight after school before university. I said,
Okay.
right, okay, like all of my friends, everybody wanted the excitement of the Northern Hemisphere. Well, I actually wanted the excitement of Asia. So
Okay.
when I was 20, I actually straight after school, I had to work a year before to save the money. And so I was going to go to Asia for 6 months and ended up going for 2 years. I worked in Ladakh in northern India in a voluntary capacity on a solar power project. And this is right back in the 1980s, like before. I had never heard of solar power back then.
Okay.
I didn't actually hear about it again until probably about a decade later. So, and then I went back and did my university, but along with many, many other Australasians, everybody was sort of traveling a path that, either straight after school or straight after university. And we called it the big OE, that the big overseas experience, because
Okay.
that's what you did. And you got it all out of your system. And then you came home and had a career and had babies, and life went on.
Life
Yeah.
went on. So I'm curious too, when you went to school and what did you study, say from the point you left school that after the gap year and
Yeah.
you and now here we are, you're sitting in a home in Scotland.
Public relations.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I did at college. You mean university? Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was what I majored in, is public relations.
Okay.
Funnily enough, I never used it. I mean, well, I probably did use it in my vocation, but I didn't. I never did a public relations role. Maybe about 6 months, and that
Okay.
was it. Yeah.
Now, okay. Now, when you pursued the retirement, where had you had this idea of traveling around the world? Had it been kind of below the surface, below the radar, or had it been slowly bubbling up here and there? I'm kind of curious what that aha moment was for you, where like, okay, we're going to pack everything up and we're just going to live from country to country, town to town.
Okay, so midlifers are going to love this one. So it was actually in the year 2000, and I was 55 years old, and COVID had hit, and we were in quite a good place during COVID, where I had my whole family around me, and everything was pretty good. However, I looked in the mirror and I thought, what's become of you? You've lost your sense of adventure. For a couple of decades, I've been wearing a corporate hat, a mum hat, a partner hat, an ex-wife hat, all sorts of different hats, but I hadn't actually worn a Belinda hat. And I was overweight. I
Mhm.
was probably drinking way too much wine than I should have been. And I just wasn't in a good place. I really was having, I call it midolescence, the hormonal transition identities, all that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And so then I decided, right, okay, I need to get out. I need to go and do something for myself. And so I joined a hiking group, and I hadn't
Okay.
worn a pair of hiking boots for 35 years. Growing up in New Zealand, I had been hiking all through school, all through university. So hiking was what was in my blood. New
Sure.
Zealand's got some of the best hikes in the world, by the way. And so I went on this hike, and it was through a meetup group, and I was the youngest.
Okay.
Everybody else was 70 and 80 years old.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't a long hike. It was probably about 12 miles, 17 kilometers, but it was down a steep gully and up the other side. And I struggled. And all these fit 70 and 80-year-olds, they were just powering down and powering back up. And they had this glow about them. And I looked at them and I thought, I want that. I want that. I don't want to be in this middle age crash that I felt that I was in.
Mhm.
And that was the start of it. That wasn't the start of me actually going off and traveling around the world, but it was the
Right.
start of getting my hiking bug before
Okay.
I before I started multi-day hikes. Yeah,
I love
which
it. I love it. Now, I am curious, when you are off on your multi-day hikes and you are in the locations, and we're going to talk a little bit about the house sitting in a
mm,
second. Do you have a home base somewhere?
I don't at the moment, but this is basically what my partner and I are saying. Right, okay, we need to get something, because we've been doing this now for nearly 3 years, and it's just things like I was applying for a VAT number with the
Right.
in the UK the other day, and I couldn't, because I sold my property, and I couldn't verify my address. And all
Right.
of a sudden, it really, really hit hard. It's not that we're not, I'm technically homeless, but and you say that, I say that to my kids, and Mum, don't say that, because I'm not. I mean, I could go and live somewhere whenever I wanted, but it's quite an interesting concept. And I think that this is a problem that a lot of nomadic people are finding. And because nomadic living at the moment is is very popular, not only
The
for
rage. It's the
yeah, the
rage these
20
days.
to 30-year-olds, but also the retirees who are suddenly saying, well, we can retire here and sit here and turn the TV channels over and over and sit by the fire and eat tea and scones, or we can go out and enjoy ourselves. So is it a problem? It does become a problem every now and then. And so we are in the process of looking for somewhere to buy that so that we can actually have somewhere where we call home, even if we're only there for 2 to 3 months a year. Yeah.
Okay. No, I love that. You could have
Yeah.
a place 2 to 3 months a year and rent it out while you're
Yeah.
gone.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, as you have been traveling, I imagine how are you deciding where you want to go? I mean, and I ask this question knowing that you're going to Greece because I love Greece. I have friends that live there and I've been twice.
Yeah.
I've even thought about packing everything up and moving to somewhere in northern Greece, right by the water. There was cost of living and was very low. And I thought I could get a little studio apartment. The beauty of podcasting and coaching
Yeah.
is I can do it
Yeah.
anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
just a time zone and internet connection.
Yeah.
But how are you deciding where you want to go? And how are you
Right.
then preparing for that?
Okay. So we have, so first of all, I have a bucket list of hikes, and
Okay.
there can be, I'd like to say there's only 50 on there, but it probably stretches to about 200, by the
Okay.
time I save all the hikes that I'd like to do on Instagram, and more are coming up all the time.
Okay.
So we house sit, and I know that we're going to get into house sitting. We house sit 4 times a year for 1 month. So, and that's during the quarters, because the people that we house sit for, it's a regular house sit. They go to Thailand and we look after their house for a month. So between that, we have 2 months where we can hike. Now, those 2 months are basically winter, spring, summer, and fall. Okay, so we've got winter, spring, summer, and fall. So all the hikes in the world, the optimum time to hike these hikes in the world are literally either spring, summer, fall, or winter.
Okay.
Northern hemisphere winter. So northern hemisphere winter, all the ones down under will come under that category. So
Okay.
if you
Right.
and also, well, I thought the traverse through the Canaries would also come into that, but I ended up with hypothermia in January. But that's another story.
That's a whole other story.
That's a whole other story. But so when you take anywhere in the Mediterranean, like Spain, Portugal, Greece, Italy, all that Mediterranean band, that is best hiked either in spring or fall. And
Okay.
so that will come into the spring category. Then we've got summer. This summer we are hiking the GR10, which runs along the Pyrenees right from the west coast of the border between Spain and Portugal, sorry,
Okay.
Spain and France. So the border
Okay.
between Spain and France runs along the Pyrenees, and this trail literally runs along the border in France from the west coast to the east coast, and it will take 8 weeks. And the optimum time to do that is summer. So we schedule that for summer. And then we also have a backup as well. So we usually have 1 or 2 backup hikes so that we can kind of slot them in if something goes wrong. For example, I would have loved to have done the Jordan Trail this spring, but Middle East is kind of out of bounds at the moment.
Not the best place.
No.
When when you are house sitting, are the homes that you are staying in, are these people that you know, or and again, I know we're going to talk a little more detail, but
Yeah.
how have you arranged to get to know these folks? They trust you, you trust them. There's got to be
Mm.
both ways.
Yeah.
How do you just are these the same homes every year, or are these folks that you have through your website or through just other sites where you have the, I don't know, professional house sitters, for the sake of better words?
Right.
How are you establishing that 1 month a year in 4 different locations?
Well, okay. So for starters, prior to this year, we were on, there's several apps, and on my website I have a resource with all the house sitting apps on there. So
Gotcha. Okay.
so there's lots of apps, and you can narrow it down to the locale, to geographically where you want to be, whether you like dogs or cats or mice or rabbits or whatever the pet is. Usually it's dogs or cats, or sometimes both. And so you apply to go on them, and you also get rated. So we're 5-star house sitters, and on somewhere like Trusted House Sitters, you can also rate the homeowners as well. So you can see on some homeowners want someone to look after their dog, and you can have a look at their profile and go, oh, I don't quite like your reviews, but that sort of thing. But we tend to get we get very good house sits, and we get long ones as well.
Okay.
So prior to this, we were filling in each of these quarters with house sits all over. We were doing all over Spain, we've done America, and we've done the UK and Canada as well. Now, when we looked after this one particular Labrador in Scotland for twice, and they love us so much. They said, really like you to do this on a regular basis. They have to go over to Thailand 4 times a year, and so we said yes. So 2 months before we were scheduled to do it in March, they turned around and said, well, we're not going anymore because our flight goes through Dubai, and we're
Right.
not sure about whether we're going to be able to get back, and all sorts of things like that. So we
Sure.
said, right, okay, happy days. We will find another house sit. And within 2 days, we had filled up that 3 week or 3 to 4 week gap with other house sits, which
Very
here I am
nice.
now. Yeah.
There you
Mm.
go. I while I want to go back to the hiking for in a minute, I do want to ask about the house sitting again. Is what would be, and I know you have a website that we will introduce and provide it in our show notes, the house sitting collective.com.
Yeah.
In addition to now you and your partner being experienced house sitters, what's your, if there's like 2 or 3, 5 pieces of advice for somebody to become a trusted house sitter, how would they go about doing that?
Okay, so one of the first things is that you really need to have a profile which will sell you. Now you
Hmm.
need to also have an element of trust. So you
Hmm.
need to be trustworthy. You need to understand that when you are going into somebody's home, they're going away for an extended period, and it might be 3 weeks, it might be 2 weeks, it might be one week, whatever. And you're there to look after their most prized possessions or assets, which is their house
Right.
and their dog and cat. Lots of people, like pets are now family for people. When I grew up, we used to throw the dog a bone out the kitchen window, but now it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more. But so you need to understand that's really important. On the flip side, it is one of the most amazing ways to travel and not pay any rent, and also you have the use of a full kitchen, so your restaurant bills are next to nothing, and you
Okay.
don't know you have a full kitchen. So I think that knowing that you're going into a house sit, and that your number one priority is that element of trust, and that is
Okay.
so important. And I go into that a lot in my blogs and my education and that sort of thing. It is one of the most it is one of the best ways to be able to travel. It really is, in my opinion.
Okay.
And I started it because I was working over here for a while in the corporate space, and I needed to find an Airbnb. And I was looking at these damp 1 bedroom apartments, and I was just like, this is ridiculous. What am I doing? This isn't going to be comfortable. And or I would be in a hotel, which was just like a small square box with a bed and maybe a chair in the corner and a desk which faced the TV. And but to be able to be in a house where you have the full movement. I'm sitting in an office right now, or moving into a lounge room, kitchen,
Hmm.
bathroom, and having that flow is so important for you. And so that's why it's such a way to travel for retirees, people who are digital nomads, or even solo travelers, especially solo women travelers, it's very safe to be able to be in a house. Maybe you've got an alarm system, and if you've got a dog, you're certainly going to have something that'll make a bit of noise if somebody knocks on the door. I mean, having the mailman come every day is usually the most exciting thing that happens every day.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So so a question then, I'm a little self-serving, opportunistic, I would even say. My work as I am an executive coach. I
Yeah.
coach literally every day, 4 or 5
Mm,
hours. My podcasting is my not so much a side hustle anymore.
mm,
But the key is I can do it anywhere.
yeah.
Is this a possibility for someone like me who's single, unattached? I just need to be able to I just need to be able to do the work while also, I guess, taking care of the dog,
Yeah.
preferably. I'm more of a
Yeah.
dog person than a cat person.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did it probably for about before I started this full-time hiking sort of lifestyle. I was doing it probably for about 6 months at a time, and I was
Mhm.
able to sort of save on the amount of money that I would have spent on hotels and Airbnbs, and I was working all the time. And then of course, you'd want to take the dog out for a walk, maybe at mid-morning, maybe at 3, and it's a lovely way to take a break. It really is. Most of the people that you're going to be looking after, the houses have everything that you would need, including a fast internet. And that's one of my stipulations is that I
Okay.
do have the fast internet.
Okay.
As far as being a single male, it's not a problem. All they want is someone who's trustworthy. If you're, and often, and I say this, but at the same time, there's a lot of young people doing it, but older people really really kind of more appreciated in this space because you've looked after your own home. You've got that air of responsibility. You've had responsible positions in life.
Mhm.
So and a lot of the homeowners that I've met, we've actually become good friends with.
Nice.
And
Nice.
yeah, and we actually went away on holiday with a couple that we looked after their house in York, and we ended up going down to Spain together. So we
I
make great friends with it.
you're
Yeah.
I'm like, Belinda, you and I are gonna be best friends. I hope your partner, is okay with that because 'cause I'm gonna be like, I wanna do this so badly." I was literally on a coaching call this week with a client who's taking an early retirement, and we talked about what he would like to do next. And this idea of just traveling and taking people on hikes was just at the top of the list as opposed to having another job for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
One quick question, and then I want to go back. I do want to visit your website, so perhaps we can do that in a second because I have some more questions regarding the hiking. But as for house sitting, for somebody who's never done it before, would you recommend that they perhaps try to house sit in their home country or maybe in a country they're very familiar with first before? I don't see myself going to the Philippines or Thailand to
Yeah.
house sit. I mean, it's one thing
Yeah.
not to be able to speak the language, but everything, the culture, the environment,
Yeah.
the gaps in the
Yeah.
communication. What would be your recommendation?
Well, I actually I do quite a bit of this in my course as well, in two of my courses. So it's basically how to get trust and trust credentials without ever having done it before. And so a lot of the time, a lot of your skills are transferable, but you can also do what's known as a weekend sit hack, and this is to get a reference. So
Okay.
a lot of the towns of the big cities, and this can be in your own city, wherever you live, a lot of people are going away for the weekend for 2
Right.
days, and they need someone to look after Rover or Ginger the cat or whatever.
Mhm.
And so what you can go and so those 2-day house sits, they're not that popular with the long-term experienced sitters. They want the 3-week, the 1-month house sits. And so you go and get 1 or 2 of those, which are quite easy to pick up. And
Right.
then and that's a great way to sort of start to get references. But also, house sitters will take, I mean, prospective homeowners will take, you can give professional references, you can give character references. whether or not it's the pastor from your church or your employer or your landlord or
Right.
anyone like that, just to show that you're a responsible human being. And that's
Okay.
literally all you need, because that's all they want. They just want someone who's going to love their pet and look after their house.
I
Yeah,
love it. I love it. And
yeah,
it's funny as you're sharing this. Next week, I was actually asked to do some house sitting for my roommate's best
right,
friend, one of her best friends. And I said yes. And then I realized, oh, that's the weekend I'm going to going with some friends to visit a national park.
right.
Sorry, I can't do it. But because I had house sat for this individual and their dog
Yeah.
previously. So it definitely was available there. So listen, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I want to take a look at your website and perhaps if we can kind of navigate around a little bit
Okay, so
for
this is
us.
the hiking website. Yep.
Yes.
So just I just want to clarify with the listeners that we also have a house sitting collective website. This is
Well,
the hiking
we'll
one.
do a quick visit over to the house
Yeah.
sitting as well.
Yeah. No, that's fine. So where are we going to go on this one?
So take us on a short tour.
Okay, so here I have the home page. This is me crossing a river in New Zealand, down on the South Island, some of the most
Nice.
beautiful
Okay.
hiking in the world. And then if we scroll a little bit down, I have the quick link. So here we have hiking guides. So this is all the places I've hiked. Well, actually, it's not all the places I've hiked. I've probably got about 10 hikes that are backed up that I still need to write about. So if we go into hiking trail guides, we'll go in there afterwards. But hiking trail guides is where you can find all the guides under particular countries, and
Oh,
I
wow.
can add another 6 countries to that at least. And then
Excellent.
you open those up and all the hikes come in at that. And now my hiking guides, I try to give everything, all the information, like the route, the best time to hike it, and everything that I can think of that to include in that you would need to know in this hiking guide. And
Okay.
I never do hiking guides for hikes that I haven't hiked. I don't
Okay.
believe in that. It has to be one that I have actually hiked. And do I use AI? Look, sometimes, but not to write the guide. But sometimes you just kind of need a little, like, can you just help me with this sentence? But honestly, if I took AI hiking, AI might be able to write it. I might trust it with writing my guides, but no, not a show at the moment.
I love it.
AI is just so not good enough. Okay, so back to the home page. If we just go
Okay.
back to the home page,
By the way,
um,
I was tempted to click on
oh,
Greenland because since it is a property of Denmark for
oh,
our listeners, wanted to emphasize that, but I elected not to go there. But we're back at
okay.
the homepage.
Okay, no, we can go in there in a minute. Okay, so then we've got, oh, and then further down here, this is the same. Oh, so just go back up a little bit. Sorry, no, in between. Yeah, so we've got the essential stuff. So the essential stuff is all sorts of things like how to go to the toilet when you're hiking, first aid for hiking, what the difference is between Australian and American snakes, and there is a huge difference. Many so Australian snakes, the most venomous snakes in the world, are also actually quite timid, or most of them are quite timid, and they bite into the lymphatic system. So our snakes bite into the lymphatic system. Therefore, our treatment of the snake bite is totally different to,
Right.
say, a pit viper, which is the most common snake in America, which bites into the blood vessels. Now, the only snake which does in America, which does bite into the lymphatic system, is your coral snake, which I think you can find in the southern states. So the problem is that many Australians, we all carry our snake bite kit with them, which is a very tight bandage, and we bite and we and we that's how we manage a snake bite. If you did that with a pit viper, you'd probably lose the limb. And if you treated an Australian snake bite the same way you treated an American snake bite, you would die. So
Well, it's good to be
that's
culturally aware of where you're going and
yeah,
what the opportunities are, the experiences are, but
yeah.
are perhaps what the dangers are. There was a book by Bill Bryson years ago. He wrote, oh God, about the it was
Appalachian
walk in the
Trail.
woods on the
Yeah,
Appalachian
yeah.
Trail. and then he wrote a book in a sunburned land, which was about Australia, and he made sure to emphasize that like 10 of the 12 top most dangerous, snakes, spiders, and
Yeah.
something else are in Australia. And I thought, well,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you. I remember I was up in Cairns in the Aboriginal park, and
Right.
I was about ready to take the tram down, and I looked behind me, and there's this massive spider in the spider web. I thought, oh dear God, I'm out of here. Okay, I
Yeah.
digress. So it looks like you've got a lot of resources out here. I
Yeah.
love the guides,
Yeah.
the trails, the camping.
Yeah.
I mean, I love when I moved from Chicago to Las Vegas, I wanted to get out to the desert. This
Mm.
time of the year we have scorpions, so we've got to be careful. But
Yeah.
just getting out there, seeing the stars, I imagine the sights and the sounds, the smells has had to have been amazing for you and your
Yeah.
partner on these
Yeah. Yeah.
hikes. Is there one
Absolutely.
hike that really, it has a special place in your heart?
Uh, I think Greenland would be one of them. The
Okay.
one in Greenland would be one of them, but the other one is the Larapinta Trail in that went through the Red Desert in Australia. So the Larapinta Trail is definitely one, but also Greenland. You can click on Greenland if you
Okay, we'll
like.
click on Greenland. I was going to go to Australia, but we'll click
Yeah,
for my listening audience here in the United States. This is Greenland. It's
yeah.
a part of Europe and Denmark. So just wanted for everybody to be aware of
Yeah.
that.
So it's called the Arctic Circle Trail. So it
Okay.
goes from the edge of the ice cap
Yeah.
all the way over to the sea. And I think, look, it's around about 220 or 230 kilometers. So I think it's about 170 miles.
Okay.
And it's actually follows an Inuit hunting route. So you
Okay.
get that little red hut that you can see that in the main picture. You have those, there's about 10 of those along, and you can actually stay in those. They're all free. The rudimentary, they've got a fire in them, and that's about it. So, but it is one of the most beautiful hikes. And I actually did sleep in the huts. I don't usually sleep in huts. I normally sleep in my tent because I prefer my tent. But because it was 24 hours daylight, there's no way I couldn't sleep. So I had to go into the hut where it's at least you
Gotcha.
could draw the curtains. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that is
Hey, why don't we, I'm going to go to the house sitting. What should we go to?
have house sitting collective. Yep,
Hopefully
that's
it'll
it.
come up.
That's it. Yep.
All right. I love technology.
Okay.
Okay. So
So
you've got some
yeah,
courses.
yeah.
Excellent.
Actually, maybe if we just go onto the home page. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Yep, if you hit that, yes, there you go. That looks a bit better, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Okay. So basically, I've got a big blurb about here why house sitting, because house sitting is becoming more and more important more and more popular.
sure.
In fact, it's growing by 12% per annum. So more and more homeowners are saying, right, okay, so leaving Rover, the dog, in its own home with caring, trusted people is so much more important and so much nicer than putting them in a place where it's almost like jail, like a kennel, because
Right.
they don't have the same sort of love and all that sort of thing. And that is basically why I started this, because so many people, well, how do I do it? What do I do? And lots of people are really struggling with their profiles, with their applications. And then I've got the house sitting fundamentals, which basically shows you what to do right from the get-go, like how to actually house it, what you
Sure.
need to do. And there's checklists in there and all sorts of great stuff. So
I love it. I
yeah,
love it. It's funny, and as I'm looking at the three courses, I mean, for less than $300, you have literally everything you need to
yeah.
prepare to get
Well,
up to speed of what you need to do. And each one
yeah,
of these courses
yeah.
has resources associated with it.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit like an onion skin. So if you start off with
Yeah,
the young one, the smaller one, you'll get that discount if you take the next one. If you get the big one, you get discount if you've already taken the courses.
I
So
recognize that model. It's that very much that entrepreneurial model, just the lead magnet and then this and then this,
yeah,
very much.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, we're going to definitely provide the backlinks to the website. Now, I think you mentioned I was preparing for the episode, you have an offer for our listeners.
Yes, certainly. So it is HS Travel for 10% off. So that's H for house, S for sitting, travel as in travel. And that is just all lowercase, and that will give you 10% off all of our courses.
I love it. So we
And
will
that's
definitely have that in
evergreen.
the show notes. Excellent.
Perfect.
Excellent. So I am going to stop sharing. And thank you for taking us on that tour of the websites. I was definitely spending a lot of time more on the hiking website because the idea of, you know, I st- you I need to be able to put the word get the outdoor in the outdoor adventure series because you can't do all the outdoor adventure from the safety
Mm,
of a 12 by
yeah.
12 room like I am in
Yeah.
right now. As you look back on your journey, perhaps the people you meet, maybe the reactions from family, is there an aha moment for you when perhaps you and your partner have said, wow, we get to do this?
I think all the time,
Okay.
especially, and you really get it when you post things on your Facebook, on your personal Facebook, because I post things on my personal Facebook, so people don't think that I've fallen off the edge of the planet, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, you're living the best life," and we kind of say, "Well, actually." We are. Oh, and I say to my kids, well, next week, I'm leaving for Greece. So I'm going to be intermittent for 6 weeks. And but I do have my Garmin with me, and every night I'll ping you so you know where I am. So
Okay.
we do have that as well, especially when I'm out in the wilderness. And even my kids are like, wow. And it sometimes you really have to sit back and go, yeah, we do have an awesome life.
Uh,
And sometimes I do take this for granted. I do take this for granted. And people might say to me, "Oh my gosh, you must have so much money." Well, actually, I spend probably about a quarter of what I did when I lived in a home.
mhm.
Okay, so for example, when I'm not hiking, we're house sitting. So we have a grocery bill that we need to buy, like certain sort of bits and pieces that we need to feed ourselves. We need hiking food. We might need new hiking gear every now and then, but we budget that in for our year. We also budget in our travel to the various destinations, and we try to go as cheaply as possible because we're not in a hurry, we can take the train or the bus, which is also
Mhm.
good. And also, when you're on the trail, it doesn't cost a lot of money. We tend to try and camp. In America, it's called backcountry camping.
Mhm.
In the UK, it's called wild camping or dispersed camping, it's also called. And in Europe, it might be called bivouacking. So we
Sure.
tend to sleep in our tent a lot more than that when we do need a shower or whatever, we will go and spend a night in a hotel. But also, when I was corporate traveling, I would stay in nice hotels. Okay, I don't need nice hotels anymore. Like a friendly guest house, which might cost 50 euros or $50 or something, that is fine by me. That
Uh,
really is fine by me.
I
So
agree with that. I agree with that.
we live frugally. Like I cannot believe how my lifestyle has changed because for for the first time in my life, I find joy now in the simple things. Yeah,
I
I
love it.
really do.
I
Yeah.
love it. One quick question. I was thinking about this because you have the website, you are writing,
Mhm.
creating content, whether it's about the experience or about the house sitting.
Mhm.
How are you creating your content when you are off on these hikes? I mean, you've got the Garmin, I get that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the capturing the experience, is it a notebook? Is it a recorder, a digital recorder with some rechargeable batteries. How are you doing that?
Okay, this is where you find out that I'm really quite crap at this.
Okay.
Um, I'm probably about ten guides behind, but I have made notes. I make notes in my note. I'll do a lot of voice things and voice just sort of voice notifications to myself, photos with timestamps, and I'll put photos in various folders that to remind myself to actually talk about a particular event or whatever. We have just started filming ourselves, and one soon we will do our YouTube. It just seems like there's not a lot of other sort of a couple of old people running around the world hiking everywhere. So hopefully somebody watches our YouTube. And yeah, so that's basically how I do it. But I don't work when I'm on the trail. I do work, but we take film and we take lots of photos and
Right.
notes and all that sort of thing. But for a couple of times I have tried to take my laptop, and it just doesn't work. I'm
No.
always scared that it's going to get ruined or
Yeah.
something like that. And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
yeah, so I literally have to work 24/7 when during my downtime. Mm,
Gotcha. Excellent. Very good.
yeah.
Well,
Mm,
I really appreciate you sharing this, a huge slice of your life with our listeners today, Belinda. I'm so glad we met via Podmatch, and finally we get to have this
yeah,
wonderful conversation and learn more about the hiking and the house sitting and the way you have combined these two. And
yeah,
it's inspiring, especially for somebody like me who age wise is there.
yeah,
And, I don't want to spend the rest of my life in a room doing what I do. I'd love just to
yeah,
be out there
yeah.
exploring. And even if it's house sitting and on the weekends, do
Come
some
over,
day
come
hikes.
over, come
Yeah.
over.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, we're going to provide backlinks to the websites. So I was just looking at that. Soul Treader. Okay.
Mm,
I'm going to do that one more time. Three, two, one. Now, we're going to provide backlinks to your website, Belinda, soultreader.com, as well as to the House Sitting Collective, which we have just shown to our listeners, and it'll be up on YouTube as well. But what social sites would you like us to link to in our show notes?
well, sorry,
Facebook.
I'll say that again. Instagram and Facebook for both, but the House Sitting Collective, the Instagram and Facebook is the partner site, House Sitting 101. So
Excellent.
yeah,
And we will
sorry,
also provide a
might have to do that again.
backlink to the gift for our listeners. And I know I'm going to take advantage of it. And it's just because I just want to get out. I love travel. I just want to get out and do more of it. And
Yeah.
it's inspiring to hear some of your stories and how you've accomplished it. And in some ways, too, I imagine your kids are a little bit envious, like, Mom, can we come meet you somewhere? And I imagine they've done that. Uh,
They have. And if anybody is wondering, well, how do I do that with kids that are still not, they're young adults, is before I left, I said to them, right, okay, I'm going to fly you over to wherever I am twice a year. And by doing that, we spend 2 weeks or one week quality time together. And it's real quality time. If I went home and spent, say, a month at home, they've got university, they've got part-time jobs, they've got their friends, and they're in and out of the house. I probably wouldn't see them that much. Of course, I'd see them, but this is what we call our quality time together and
I
and
love it.
family time. Yeah, yeah,
Excellent. This is
mm,
fantastic. Well, Belinda, again, thank you so much for spending time and
yeah.
go have well, I think right now it's probably late afternoon in Scotland. And if the sun hasn't set, go enjoy the sunset, go have some good food. And I've got to get back to Scotland. But and again, have fun in Greece. It's one of my favorite places in the whole world
So,
and just brings back so many fond memories. So
yeah,
thank you again for spending time with us.
wonderful. Thank you, Howard. It's a pleasure.
All right. Listen, stay in the line. We're going to do a quick close and you and I can then have a final chat. Okay. All right, folks. We have just been chatting with Belinda Coker. She's a hiker, a writer, educator, house sitter. What a wonderful journey going from corporate America. Did I just say corporate America? I just said
Yeah.
going from corporate life. What a wonderful journey going from corporate life to really combining this love of exploring, being outdoors, being healthy through hiking, and also house sitting. And the way she and her partner have incorporated this lifestyle together, it allows them to go around the globe for that matter, not only to be on some great hikes, but also provide a service to others who need somebody to come into their home to house sit for the dog, the cat, preferably the dog for me. But just what a great story and how that has been accomplished. And we're going to provide backlinks to both websites, soultreader.com, so you can learn more about the travel side, as well as to the house sitting collective, so that you can also learn about what it takes to become a house sitter. And you can, again, as Belinda said, you can do that anywhere in the world, literally. It's about relationships and trust and building those gradually. So eventually you too can house sit for weeks or months at a time. Now, we're going to also provide backlinks to both sites and Bit Operations social sites on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, you can find our episode in the show notes and all the backlinks on our website, outdooradventureseries.com. We're also on Facebook and LinkedIn. The YouTube of this episode will be up on our Outdoor Adventure Series page. And of course, you can listen to this episode wherever you get your podcast from. Okay, folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a fantastic day. And we look forward to having you join us on a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care.